So when I say pesto pasta, what do you think of? I think that most people would think pasta with basil pesto in it, but there's actually another version, which is of the sun-dried tomato variety. And when you make pesto with sun-dried tomatoes, it's actually more umami and more savory. So let me show you how to make it. First thing I am going to do is slice up some cherry tomatoes, and I like using the fresh variety because it adds, well, a freshness to this dish and also a nice tartness as well, in opposed to the dark sweet flavor of the sun-dried tomatoes. The next vegetable I am prepping are some mushrooms. All I'm gonna do is slice off that woody hard part at the end. That part can get kind of tough sometimes, so just slice it off. And once that is off, go ahead and slice the mushroom down into about, I don't know, 1/4 inch thick. Pretty much as thick as you want, or you can cut these into fourths if you want. I just went with slices. And lastly, I'm gonna smash and finely mince 2 cloves of garlic. You can add more, you can add less. In a food processor or blender, add in your sun-dried tomatoes. This is the one I'm using, and it's an 8.5 ounce jar. I'm gonna use about half of it, and I'm gonna also go in with some of its oil. And to that, I'm gonna season with some salt. Be careful about how much you season. It depends on how salty your tomatoes are. And of course, go in with some pepper, again to your liking. Now, following typical pesto procedure, go ahead and grate in some Parmesan. You can also use pecorino or a combination of both. I typically only have Parmesan, so I am using Parmesan. And lastly, I'm gonna go in with some pine nuts and some lemon juice for some tang, and then some olive oil just to emulsify all of this together. Now go ahead and whiz it up and make sure everything is blended through and it's nice and smooth. And it should look something like this. It's almost smooth, but not too chunky. And I'm just gonna give that a taste. And then when it seems like the seasoning is good for you, in this case it's good for me, let's go and move on to cooking the pasta. Get a pot of water boiling on the stove, and once it does come up to a boil, go ahead and go in with a big pinch of salt. For my pasta, I'm using oricchiette. This is the one I'm using, and just go ahead and follow the instructions on the back of it, and just take off about a minute or two to reach al dente. So dump in your pasta of choice and then just give it a quick stir so nothing sticks, and then cook it for as long as the package says, subtracting a minute or two, of course. Now while the pasta is cooking, get a saute pan, heat it on about medium-high heat, go in with a drizzle of oil and dump in your mushrooms. You're gonna cook this until it gets nice and brown. I'm looking to get some color on it, so season this right off the bat to draw out the moisture to cook that off. It's important to not to agitate your mushrooms too much so that you can actually give it time to brown on that one side that's contacting the pan. For me, it took about 5 minutes or so, and I've gotten it brown like this. That's what you're looking for. Once you've reached that, let's go in with the tomato. This will halt the frying process of the mushroom. And I'm just gonna cook these tomatoes, not to soften it all the way, but just to blister it ever so slightly. At this point, if your pan is looking a little dry, go ahead and drizzle some more oil in. And then go ahead and put in about more than half of your paste to fry off. The goal here is to deepen the flavor of the sun-dried tomatoes even more, to make it even more savory. So by now, my pasta should be ready. This took about 8 minutes or so. And I'm just gonna go ahead and drain the pasta directly into the pan. And it's totally fine if you drag some of the pasta water with it. This will help build the sauce. And speaking of pasta water, I'm gonna go ahead and go in with just a little bit of it, not too much. And then now, just go ahead and stir it through. Make sure your pasta is getting coated in the sauce. That's where the flavor is coming from. And mine looks like it needs a little bit more of that paste. So I'm gonna go in with more, and I'm gonna go in with a pinch of salt. Again, watch your salt levels depending on how much you salted your pasta water and your tomato paste. Taste it for seasoning. I felt like the sauce needed to be loosened up a little bit more, so I went in with some more pasta water, gave that a quick stir, And I shut off the heat, and now I'm gonna go ahead and grate in more Parmesan or whatever cheese you used earlier. And then give that the final stir, make sure the cheese is fully incorporated. And once it is, it should look something like this, and it's time for the taste test. I know I say this every time, but this looks good and it smells great. So, I mean, let's just give this a try. Let's see, let's get some mushroom. All right, got a good bite here. All right, cheers. This is so good. So, like I said in the beginning, when you make pesto with sun-dried tomatoes, it's actually a lot more savory and it has more of an umami punch. More so than a basil pesto, which is kind of fresher, I guess you would say, and more bright. You know, I use oricchiette, or however you say that. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. But it has a nice texture to it. It's al dente. It's not soft or mush. It has a nice bite. And of course, having the fresh tomatoes in there, or the grape tomatoes actually, gives it a nicer and fresher taste, if that makes any sense. And of course, the mushroom is just nice and earthy. So give this a try. And if you like this recipe, hit the like button below. And for more videos like this, hit that subscribe button or that one right there. And for my previous video, you can hit that one right there. And I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you. Bye.